He stood on the cliff's edge, watching the waves crash below, holding a single key, the last remnant of an empire worth $3 billion. 6 months ago, Alexander Kane had everything. Tonight, he had a choice: jump or start over. Alexander Kane wasn't supposed to fail. Forbes called him the Golden Touch. At 38, he'd built Helix Technologies from a garage startup into a global powerhouse. Mansions in 3 countries, a wife who graced magazine covers, respect that money couldn't buy, except it could, and it did. Then came the scandal. His CFO embezzled $200 million, framed Alexander for fraud, and vanished. The board turned on him. Investors fled. The media crucified him. And Victoria, his wife of 7 years, filed for divorce on national television, calling him a con artist in an Armani suit. 30 days later, he'd lost everything. The courts froze his accounts. His so-called friends stopped returning calls. Even his penthouse was seized. Alexander drove until the highway ended, until he reached a town called Crescent Bay, population 4,000, where nobody knew his name. Alone, broken, and haunted by his mistakes, he lived in a rented room, granted access by a local fisherman who had no idea the past that lay behind him. The bookstore smelled like old paper and possibility. Alexander pushed through the door, bell chiming, not knowing why he'd entered, except that the window display, a quote from Steinbeck about new beginnings, felt like a sign. "We're closing in 5, a voice called from behind a tower of boxes. She emerged carrying a stack of hardcovers, late 20s, dark hair pulled back, paint-stained jeans, and eyes that actually looked at him, not through him, not assessing his net worth, just seeing him. "Are you lost?" she asked. "Completely," Alexander admitted. Her name was Maya Chen. She'd inherited the bookstore from her grandmother 2 years ago, barely keeping it alive through community events and stubborn optimism. She recommended Hemingway. He bought 3 books he'd never read. "You don't look like a reader," Maya said, wrapping them in brown paper. "I'm trying to become someone different," Alexander replied. "Good luck with that," she said, smiling. "Most people just become better versions of their worst selves." He thought about that all night in his motel room, the cheapest one in town, nothing like the suites he'd known. Alexander took a job at the marina, maintaining boats for tourists, manual labor, minimum wage, blisters on hands that once only signed contracts. The owner, an old man named Frank, didn't ask questions about his past. Every few days, Alexander returned to the bookstore, sometimes to buy books, sometimes just to watch Maya orchestrate story time for kids, or argue with the delivery guy, or curse at her ancient computer. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked, one rainy afternoon, looking up from her ledger. "We both know you're not actually reading Faulkner." "Maybe I'll like the company," he said. "I'm terrible company. I'm blunt, I hate small talk, and I'm probably going to lose this place in 6 months." "Why?" She showed him the numbers. The bookstore was drowning. Amazon was cheaper. The lease was increasing. Her grandmother's dream was dying, and Maya was drowning with it. "Let me help," Alexander said. You work at a marina. I used to be good with numbers. That night, Alexander reviewed her books. It was worse than she'd admitted, but fixable. He saw inefficiencies, missed opportunities, simple restructuring that could buy her time. He returned with a plan: renegotiate her lease, launch online sales, convert the storage room into an event space for local artists, community partnerships, social media strategy. Nothing revolutionary, just smart business. "Who are you?" Maya asked, studying him with new suspicion. "Someone who's trying to become better than his worst self," Alexander said. She took a chance. Within weeks, foot traffic increased. Within a month, the bookstore stopped hemorrhaging money. And somewhere between inventory counts and late-night coffee, Alexander fell in love, not with the idea of someone, with Maya. Her laugh when she discovered a first edition, her fierce defense of the Oxford comma, the way she fell asleep reading on the store couch, surrounded by words. She fell too for the quiet men with sad eyes who fixed her shelves and never asked for anything in return, who listened like her words mattered, who'd appeared exactly when she needed saving, though she'd never admit she needed saving. Alexander was starting fresh, building something real, but his past was about to come crashing back. If you believe people deserve second chances, hit that subscribe button. The people from his old life won't give him one. 3 months in, during a thunderstorm, with the power out and candles flickering across empty shelves, Maya kissed him between the poetry and philosophy sections. "I don't know your story, Maya, and I don't care. This, right now, this is enough." Alexander wanted to tell her everything, wanted to confess that he'd been lying by omission, that he was a fugitive from a life she couldn't imagine. But fear held his tongue, fear of losing this fragile, perfect thing. "Maya, shh, don't ruin it with explanations." So he kissed her back and pretended the past couldn't find him. But it could, and it did. Victoria Kane stepped out of a black Mercedes on Main Street, like a predator returning to claim territory. Designer heels on cobblestones, sunglasses hiding calculating eyes. She'd tracked him through a credit card charge. Sloppy, desperate, human error. She found him at the marina, wrench in hand, grease under his fingernails. "Darling," Victoria said, venom wrapped in honey, "you've let yourself go." Alexander's blood turned to ice. "What do you want?" "You?" "I never signed the divorce papers, Alexander. Legally, you're still mine." He stared at her. "You announced our divorce on television." "Theater, darling. I needed distance from your scandal. But the charges were dropped last month, didn't you hear? Your CFO was caught in Singapore. You're innocent. Your reputation is salvageable. And that means your assets will be unfrozen. $3 billion, Alexander. Half of that is legally mine, unless you come home." She stepped closer, her perfume suffocating. "I've already retained lawyers. Fight me and I'll destroy you again. Properly this time. Or you can stop playing poor, come back to Manhattan, and we'll rebuild your empire together. 50-50. I don't want that life anymore. Victoria laughed, sharp, cruel. Then you'll lose everything again, including her. She'd seen Maya. Of course she had. Leave her out of this. Oh, sweetheart, she's already in it. Does she know who you are? What you are? Show her one photo of your old life and she'll realize you've been lying to her. She'll hate you for it. Victoria handed him a business card. You have 1 week. Come back or I'll burn down everything you've built here, starting with that pathetic bookstore. She left him standing in the rain, drowning all over again. Alexander couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Victoria's deadline ticked down like a bomb. He had to tell Maya. She deserved the truth. He found her closing the store, humming to herself, happy, so unbearably happy. Maya, I need to tell you something. She turned, saw his face, and her smile faded. What's wrong? My name is Alexander Kane. I used to be a billionaire. I lost everything 6 months ago to a scandal, one I didn't cause but took the fall for. I came here to disappear, and then I met you, and I fell in love with you, but I wasn't honest. My ex-wife found me. She wants me back, not for love, but for money. And if I don't go, she'll destroy this bookstore. She'll destroy you. Alexander was finally being honest. But was it too late? If you believe honesty matters, even when it costs everything, drop a comment saying, truth over lies. People like Victoria count on silence. Maya stood frozen, processing. Then she slapped him, hard enough that his cheek burned. You lied to me. I know. For 3 months, you pretended to be someone you're not. No, Alexander said quietly. For 3 months, I was exactly who I want to be. Everything before this, that was the lie. The mansions, the deals, the performance. I was drowning in that life, Maya. This, with you, this is the first time I've been real. And now, your past wants you back. She wants my money. I don't care about the money anymore. But she'll hurt you to get to me. So I'm going to give her what she wants. I'll go back, settle everything, and disappear again. You'll never see me again, but you'll be safe. Maya's eyes filled with tears. You think I need you to protect me? She'll destroy the bookstore. Then let her try, Maya shouted. You think this place is what matters to me? You think I care about books more than I care about you? God, Alexander, or whoever you are, you're still thinking like a billionaire, throwing money at problems, making decisions for other people. Then what do you want? I want you to fight, not with money, with everything else. I want you to stop running, and I want you to trust me enough to face this together. They had 6 days. Alexander made calls to his old lawyer, to journalists who'd once crucified him, to investigators who could trace Victoria's finances. Because here's what he'd learned in exile. Money buys loyalty until it doesn't. Victoria had made enemies. She'd cut corners, rebuilding her own reputation. And Alexander still had one thing she didn't: the truth. The charges had been dropped, but the evidence against his CFO, The real criminal implicated others, including Victoria. She'd known about the embezzlement. She'd profited from it. She'd let Alexander burn to protect herself. With Maya at his side, Alexander built a case, not for revenge, but for freedom. On day 6, Victoria returned to Crescent Bay, confident and cruel. She arrived at the bookstore with eviction papers and a photographer, ready to document Alexander's humiliation. But Alexander was waiting, with his lawyer and a federal agent. "Victoria Kane," the agent said, "you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and obstruction of justice." Her face, oh, her face, shock, then fury, then fear. "You can't prove anything," she hissed. "Your CFO testified against you in exchange for a reduced sentence," Alexander said, calmly. "The money trail leads straight to accounts in your name. You weren't just complicit, you were a partner." As they led her away in handcuffs, she screamed threats, but they rang hollow now. Maya stood beside Alexander, squeezing his hand. "Is it over?" she asked. "Almost." The divorce was finalized. The assets unfrozen. Alexander Kane was a billionaire again, but he didn't feel like one. He stood in the bookstore after closing, Maya reorganizing the shelves she loved. "I could rebuild my company," Alexander said. "Move back to Manhattan, return to that life." Maya didn't look at him. "Is that what you want?" "No, but I have $3 billion, Maya. I could invest it here, expand the bookstore into a chain, make you rich." "I don't want to be rich," Maya said quietly. "I want to sell books in a town where people know my name. I want to fall asleep reading and wake up to the smell of coffee. I want small, Alexander. I want real." "Then what do I do with all of it?" She finally turned to him, smiling sadly. "That's not my decision. The money is yours. The life is yours. I can't tell you who to be." Alexander has the money, the freedom, and the girl. But does he have himself? If you believe real love is about choice, not convenience, hit that subscribe button. Comment "Choose Love" if you think he'll make the right call. Alexander looked around the bookstore, at the shelves he'd fixed, the floorboards he'd refinished, the space where he'd found himself. "I'm staying," he said. "Alexander, I'm staying. Not for you, though God, I want to be with you, but because you were right. I spent 20 years becoming my worst self. It took losing everything to find the person I actually want to be. And that person doesn't need an empire. He needs purpose, connection, truth." Maya's tears spilled over. "But," Alexander continued, "I want to use the money for something real. Fund literacy programs, save struggling bookstores across the country, give people second chances, the way this town gave me one. Not from a boardroom, from here, with you, if you'll have me." Maya crossed the space between them, grabbed his face, and kissed him, desperate and deep and real. "You're an idiot," she whispered. "Is that a yes?" "It's a maybe. Ask me again in a year, when you've proven you can actually live this life." Alexander laughed. Genuinely laughed for the first time in months. I'll ask you every day until you say yes. Outside, the ocean roared against the cliffs. Inside, surrounded by words and possibilities, Alexander Kane finally felt like he was home. But in a Manhattan high-rise, a figure watched news footage of Victoria's arrest. Someone else from Alexander's past, who'd also lost everything when his empire fell. Someone with a longer memory and a deeper grudge. Someone who wouldn't make Victoria's mistakes. The game wasn't over. It had only just begun. If you believe everyone deserves a second chance, even fallen billionaires, subscribe to Hearts and Empires for more stories of love, loss, and redemption. What would you do with $3 billion and a broken heart? Tell us in the comments below.